Hong Kong triads have roots in Chinese history dating back to the 17th century. It has its fingers in almost every aspect of the society, whether it be in the economy, political, or social. Its influence looms over all walks of life. Hong Kong, though having been colonized by the British, was greatly influenced by Chinese history. Thus, the triad was initially founded as a nationalist patriotic society to drive the Manchu invaders in the 1600s. In addition, they helped Chinese leaders Sun Yat-sen and Chiang Kai-shek rise to power, indicating their influence and significance. Triads are structured with the help of numeric codes which are influenced by Chinese numerology, giving them greater significance within the culture. This helps to determine position and rank within the gang. The head of a triad, called the Mountain Dragon Master Head, had a code of 489, followed by the Deputy Mountain Master with 438, and the Straw Sandal, or the stand-in for the Mountain Master, is recognized as 432. Under these high-ranking individuals are the Incense Master and the Vanguard, known as 2238, and are in charge of all initiation ceremonies. According to some, the Vanguard's word is law, indicating how everything is not as it seems within the triad itself. Their initiation ceremonies are super complicated. It usually takes place as an altar decorated with incense with an animal sacrifice. A candidate must drink a mix of wine and blood of the sacrifice or of their own in order to become a part of the triad. Of course, nobody would want to drink their own blood. Sounds creepy and disturbing indeed. After this, they have to walk beneath an arch of swords while reciting the triad's oaths. The paper on which the oaths were written would be burned as a sign of their obligation and how serious they are in joining the triad. Then the candidate must agree to recite, "I shall never betray my sworn brothers. If through an understanding I have caused the arrest of one of my brothers, I must release him immediately. If I break this oath, I will be killed by 5 thunderbolts." Wondering how triads seek their members? Well, according to an ex-triad member, the process is quite the same as it is with the extremist groups like Al-Qaeda, wherein disenfranchised young men and socially awkward and bullied boys who come from low-income homes are prime candidates. Those who fit into these categories are lulled into trusting triad members with drugs, alcohol, the promise of street cred, and the idea that if they want to join the triad, the strong group will always back them up. Once hooked, there is no going back. The triad has them in its grasp. One tactic is to recruit from schools by settling on playground arguments like stealing someone's girlfriend or avenging bullies, where violence is always an option. This kind of terror was deeply ingrained into the triad, with young members being assaulted if they broke the rules. Little did the new recruits know that they were trading bullies for another set of more violent and dangerous ones. Now, let us know some of the most influential triad members of our time, how they started with this kind of group, and how they face a life of violence, crime, and murder. Won Kuk Koi, known as Broken Tooth Koi, is a gangster and a former leader of the Macau wing of the 14K Triad. He has spent more than a decade in prison and was released in December 2012. However, not long after his release, he went back to his old life of crimes and illegal gambling rings in Myanmar. He also involved himself into drug trades with cartels situated in and around the Golden Triangle, thriving opium and narcotics. Won had a difficult upbringing in the slums of Macau, which brought him into the ruthless living on the streets, until he rose through the ranks of the 14K. This was because of the presence of another gangster, Ng Wai, whom he worked for. As Won continued to gain power, he was asked by Wai to assassinate the top boss, Mo Ding Ping, where Won agreed to do. This led to a violent and brutal turf war between Ping and Wai. Wai's group, together with Won, emerged victorious, while Ping was forced to flee Macau to avoid arrest. As things slowly became tense and Won's celebrity status in Macau grew more than expected, Wai became intimidated, causing another turf war, and the stakes could not have been higher. In 1997, to signal a potential bloodbath, an unsigned letter was sent to leading newspapers nationwide saying, "Broken Tooth Koi can no longer be mentioned in the press, or else bullets will have no eyes, and knives and bullets will have no feelings." Won was not about to give up. He began to attack Wai by calling him a drug trafficker and declaring that anyone who visited Wai's casinos would be cut off. Wan eventually gained more power and influence and was able to capture Y's racket. He was amassing $6 million a month from his gambling establishments. But all good and illegal things must come to an end. Y was convicted of illegal gambling, loan sharking, and criminal association in November 1999. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison. As soon as he was released from prison in December 2012, he was back in the casino junket business. Wan remains active to this day. John Willis, known as Buck Guy John or White Devil John, is an American mobster associated with the Chinese Mafia in Boston and New York. In the Chinese organized crime syndicate, he is the only white person. Willis was raised by his mother as a single parent until she died when he was 14. His father had abandoned them when he was 2 years old, and so the death of his mother left him fending for himself, working as a bouncer in a bar linked with Chinese criminals. Here, Willis intervened in a physical fight on behalf of a Chinese gangster called the Weiping John Zhou. In return for his deed, Willis was given a phone number that Weiping told him to contact if he ever needed anything. Soon after, Willis found himself homeless and broke, and so the number had been his savior. He was taken into the Ping An Gang, a Chinese crime ring with links to the 14K Triad. He was sent to New York to act as a bodyguard for a Chinese gangster in the city. While in New York, he was able to pick up some Cantonese and Taiwanese dialects, where he became fluent with. He eventually flirted with women, which he considered very essential to his rise in the Chinese crime hierarchy. In the 1990s, Willis returned to Boston to work for a gangster called Bai Ming. A Chinese turf war broke out and Ming was left the last man standing. He was known to be one of the most important gangsters in Boston's Chinatown. Willis, as his second-in-command, became equally influential and his career with men skyrocketed. However, Willis's fortune came to an end when he was convicted and jailed in 2000. A trafficking ring of OxyContin from Florida and Massachusetts was organized by Willis while he was in prison. As soon as he was released, he became heavily involved in drug dealing and money laundering and was again convicted and sentenced to a 20-year term due to his involvement in the 4 million OxyContin drug ring in August 2013. Willis is currently serving his sentence in Canaan, USP, with a projected release in 2028. Up to this day, triads operate in virtually every Chinese community in the world, specializing in criminal activities such as drug trafficking, extortion, loan sharking, gambling, prostitution, and extortion. While triad members have their own side of stories, in the eyes of the common people, involvement in such kind of organization brings terror to the society, and to stop their operations would be everyone's wish. What do you think of our video today? Let us know.